Welcome to another deep dive. You know we love to get our hands dirty, and this time it's all about Tauri 2.0.
Oh, yeah. Tauri 2.0.
I've been going through all the articles and videos you sent,
Uh-huh.
and I'm really starting to see why this framework's getting so much buzz.
Yeah.
Building these tiny apps that are super fast
Right.
and also incredibly secure. It sounds almost too good to be true. So are you ready to break it down for our listeners and explain what makes Tauri so special?
Absolutely. I think the excitement around Tauri is completely justified. It really challenges how we approach app development,
Right.
especially compared to something like Electron.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Our listeners are pretty savvy, so we don't need to spend too much time on the basics.
Sure.
But just to level set, remind us, what exactly is it about Tauri that has everyone so excited?
Well, I think it's this really cool combination of web technologies
Okay.
that we already know and love for the front end,
Mm-hmm.
like your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript,
Right.
with the power and security of Rust on the back end.
Ugh, Rust. I knew that was going to come up. That seems to be the secret sauce here. But tell me, what does this combination actually mean for the apps we build? How does it translate into something tangible?
Have you ever, downloaded an app
Yeah,
and been surprised by how much space it takes up?
all the time.
Electron apps are famous for this, right? They're huge.
Yeah.
Sometimes hundreds of megabytes because they have to bundle a whole Chromium instance.
Right.
Tauri apps, on the other hand, can be as small as a few megabytes.
Okay, that's a huge difference. What's the magic behind those tiny app sizes? How does Tauri pull that off?
Well, the secret weapon is that it leverages the system's web view.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to bring its own browser engine along for the ride.
I see.
Instead, it uses what's already there.
Yeah.
On a Mac, it would be Safari's WK Web View. And on Windows, it's WebView 2.
Oh, that's clever. So it's like packing light for a trip. You bring only the essentials for maximum efficiency. But smaller app sizes, that has to have more benefits than just saving space on our hard drives.
Right.
What else is there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this has huge implications, both for developers and for users. Smaller apps mean faster downloads, which is obviously good for everybody.
Of course.
But it also means better accessibility for developers in regions with maybe limited internet access,
Right.
or for users who are watching their data usage.
That's a really good point, something we don't often consider. We're so used to fast internet and unlimited data, but that's not the reality for many people around the world.
Exactly.
And what about security? I bet using the system's web view has some benefits there as well.
Absolutely. So the system web view is generally going to be much more up-to-date security-wise than a bundled Chromium version.
Right, because it's getting those regular updates from the operating system.
Exactly. That means fewer vulnerabilities, which means fewer headaches for developers and a safer experience for the users.
Okay, so smaller size, faster performance, enhanced security, it's all starting to click into place. But there's this one element that I think might be a little bit intimidating for some, Rust. Now, you don't have to be a Rust master to work with Tauri, right?
No, not at all.
Where does Rust fit in?
Rust does have a reputation for being a bit complex,
Yeah.
but Tauri actually makes it surprisingly approachable. And honestly, you can do a lot without having to write very much Rust at all.
Oh, good.
Many of the core functionalities have JavaScript APIs already.
Okay, that's reassuring. But for our listener who's thinking, okay, but how steep is that learning curve? How much Rust do I really need to know? What would you say?
Honestly, you'd be surprised how supportive the Tauri community is.
Mm.
Even with limited Rust knowledge, you can build some really amazing things. And if you do get stuck, there are folks there who are ready to help you out.
There's nothing like a good community to have your back when you're venturing into a new world. Speaking of community, I actually came across this really cool anecdote from Daniel Thompson-Yvetot, one of the creators of Tauri. He was teaching his partner's daughter Rust, and he did it through coding challenges, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, that's a great story. I love that.
They were racing Rust code against JavaScript to see which was faster.
Yes. And she got really into it.
Did Rust win?
Rust was winning pretty consistently, except for this one time when they got tripped up by Bigot.
Ah, good old Bigant.
Yeah. But it just goes to show that learning can be fun and effective, especially when you have the right kind of guidance and support.
And you know what? The fact that they even hit that snag is a good reminder
Yeah.
that even with a powerful language like Rust, there are still going to be challenges.
Absolutely.
And that's why having that supportive community is so valuable. It's like having a safety net while you're exploring new territory.
Right.
And it seems like that's a recurring theme with Tauri, this blend of power and accessibility. It's like they're saying, hey, you can build these really high-performance apps without having to be a hardcore Rust expert.
Totally. And to make things even easier, Tauri also has this incredibly well-designed plugin system that opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. Tell me more about this plugin system and how it works. Why is it such a game changer for developers?
Think of plugins as these building blocks
Okay,
that allow you to easily extend Tauri's functionality
got it.
and tap into those native APIs we were talking about earlier.
I see.
So let's say you're building a mobile app and you want to add haptics, right?
For that tactile feedback?
Yeah, exactly. For a more immersive experience,
Uh-huh.
there's actually a plugin for that.
Wow, so you don't have to write all this complex native code from scratch. You just snap in a plugin and you're good to go.
That's exactly it.
That's so cool.
And the beauty of it is that these plugins can be written in different languages, Swift, Kotlin, or of course you can use Rust. But it's this modular approach that makes development so much faster and also encourages experimentation because you can easily add or remove features without having to mess with Tauri's core code.
That's incredibly smart. It keeps the core framework lean and mean, giving developers the flexibility to customize their apps with exactly the features they need. It sounds like this plugin system is a real game changer for the Tauri ecosystem. I'm curious, are there any plugins in particular that have caught your eye?
There's a whole world of plugins out there, and more are being created all the time.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating is that the Tauri team isn't just stopping with plugins.
Oh.
They're actually going further and pushing the limits of what's possible with web views themselves.
Wait, hold on. They're not content with just using the system web views. They're building their own.
Yeah, it's still experimental, but they're working on this project called Verso,
Verso.
which is a custom-built web view
Mhm.
powered by the Servo browser engine. You might remember Servo was a Mozilla project.
Yeah, Servo does ring a bell. But why go to all the trouble of building their own web view? What's the advantage over just sticking with the system ones?
Well, it really all comes down to optimization and just pushing the limits of performance.
Okay.
They have encountered some limitations with the existing web views, and so with Verso, they're hoping to address those head-on. They want to build a web view that's lean, mean, a real performance machine tailored specifically for Tauri apps.
So it's all about squeezing out every ounce of performance. I get it. But what kind of real-world benefits would developers and users see from this custom-built web view? Give me the aha moments.
Imagine lightning-fast communication
Yeah.
between the front end and the back end thanks to shared memory.
Wow, okay. Shared memory between the front and back end. Now we're talking.
Yeah, we're talking potentially massive speed boosts. This could be a game changer for complex, data-heavy applications.
That's what I call an aha moment. Okay, I'm officially adding Explore Verso into my to-do list. But before we get too caught up in the WebView world, let's zoom out a bit. What about Tauri's overall vision for the future? Where do they see themselves going beyond just the traditional desktop and mobile space?
They have this really grand vision of expanding beyond those confines, those traditional boundaries of desktop and mobile apps.
Yeah.
So, they're experimenting with Tauri on platforms like watchOS and visionOS, even Xbox.
Hold on, Tauri on a smartwatch.
It's wild.
That's wild. But what would a Tauri app on a watch even look like? Can you give us a concrete example?
Well, it's still early days, but the possibilities are super exciting. I mean, imagine a fitness tracker app built with Tauri,
Yeah.
using Rust performance
All right.
to analyze that real-time data, or even just a super minimalist communication app, all powered by this incredibly efficient framework.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So Tauri's not just about building apps. It's about this whole new approach to development that can transcend platforms. That's exciting. What else is on the horizon? Any hints about future developments?
Well, they're constantly pushing the boundaries, but one of the big things that they're aiming for with Tauri 3.0
Okay.
is back-end agnosticism.
Back-end agnosticism. Break that down for me. What does that mean? And how will it impact Tauri development?
So right now, Rust is the primary language for the back-end, but with Tauri 3.0, they're aiming to allow other languages like Python, PHP, or even Dino to enter the picture.
Wow, that's a pretty big shift. Why the move away from a Rust-only backend?
It's all about inclusivity, really.
Why?
Different developers have different preferences and areas of expertise.
Right.
By opening up the back end to these other languages, Tauri becomes much more versatile.
Yeah.
And it's accessible to a wider range of developers. So imagine, for example, a data scientist who's a Python whiz. They could build a Tauri app using their existing skills. It's a win-win.
I love that philosophy. It's about empowering developers to use the tools they're most comfortable with, while still benefiting from Tauri's core strengths. And speaking of empowerment, what about Daniel's vision for AI-assisted development within Tauri?
Yeah, that's really thinking ahead.
It does sound pretty futuristic.
It is, but it really just acknowledges the fact that AI is becoming a bigger part of the coding world.
It is, yeah.
Daniel sees a future where Tauri can actually help beginners get over that initial hurdle, those first steps in development,
Yeah.
by offering this kind of AI-powered assistance to guide them along the way.
So instead of feeling intimidated by all the complexities of app development, beginners would have this AI companion to help them out.
Exactly. It's about making app development more accessible and lowering those barriers to entry.
I love it. It aligns perfectly with Tauri's mission to democratize app development, and I can definitely see how AI could be a game changer in achieving that goal.
Absolutely. It's really inspiring to see the Tauri team constantly pushing the envelope and thinking ahead. But let's talk about the reality of Tauri as an open source project, keeping the lights on and the development going. That can be a real challenge. So how does Tauri actually sustain itself?
It's the age-old question for open source projects, isn't it?
Yeah.
Passion and dedication can only take you so far. What's the secret to Tauri's sustainability?
Well, it's really a testament to the power of community.
Okay.
You have all these passionate volunteers and contributors
Yeah.
who believe in Tauri's mission, a core team of developers, many of whom are volunteers, or they're supported by companies who believe in open source. And then there's Crab Nebula.
Crab Nebula. Now, that's a name that piques my curiosity.
Yeah.
Tell me more about them and their connection to Tauri.
Crab Nebula is actually a company that was founded by Daniel Thompson Yvetot, one of Tauri's creators. They're the official partner of Tauri, providing services that help to sustain the project's development. One of their key offerings is a cloud platform for managing app updates.
So it's a way for developers to sort of streamline that whole process of keeping their Tauri apps up to date.
Exactly. It takes care of all the details.
Ah,
Hosting, distribution, the whole 9 yards.
that sounds incredibly helpful, and it frees up the developers to focus on what they do best, building those amazing apps. It sounds like a pretty smart and sustainable business model that benefits both Crab Nebula and the Tauri community as a whole. But let's move from the business side to what's actually being built. What are some real-world examples of apps powered by Tauri? What are people actually doing with this?
Oh, there's so many. One that really stands out is this code editor called Kodi.
Okay.
It's powerful, it's efficient,
The full-fledged code editor built on Tauri.
entirely with Tauri. Yep.
That's pretty impressive. Any other cool Tauri projects out there that have caught your eye?
Another great example is Gitbuller, which is a project by Scott Chacon, a big name in the Git world.
Okay, yeah.
It's a really sleek Git client designed to streamline your workflow.
So we've got serious developer tools being built with Tauri. That definitely says something about its capabilities. But can you build other types of apps with Tauri? Is it limited to this kind of developer-focused stuff?
Oh no, it's incredibly versatile. You'll find a lot of Twitch streamer add-ons
Okay.
built with Tauri, bringing all sorts of cool functionalities to streaming. And for a real dose of inspiration, I would say check out the awesome Tauri list on GitHub.
Ah, yes, the awesome Tauri list. I've heard whispers about this legendary list. What exactly will we find there?
It showcases the incredible diversity of projects that are being built with Tauri. Utility apps, creative tools, games, you name it. And there are even some commercially successful closed source projects on there, which really shows that Tauri is not just for hobbyists. It's a viable platform for businesses, too.
It sounds like a rabbit hole I will gladly dive into.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we wander too far down that path, I do want to take a little detour and talk about something that's been causing a lot of chatter in the tech world lately, especially in the open source community, the Cyber Resilience Act.
Right. It's definitely a hot topic, and it could have a huge impact on open source development, including, of course, projects like Tauri.
Yeah, absolutely. So for our listener who might not be fully up to speed on this, what is the Cyber Resilience Act and why is it causing so much concern?
Well, in a nutshell, it's a piece of legislation being developed in Europe,
Okay.
and it aims to improve the security of software and devices, which
Sounds good so far.
it's a worthy goal, absolutely. But the way it's currently drafted, it's raising a lot of concerns, especially within the open source community.
Yeah, I can imagine. Open source thrives on collaboration and this free exchange of ideas and code. So regulations, especially ones with really strict requirements, could really stifle that whole ecosystem. What are the specific concerns people have about the Cyber Resilience Act?
One of the biggest ones is the potential for increased liability for open source developers.
Okay.
As it stands, the act could actually hold developers responsible for any security vulnerabilities in their software, even if those vulnerabilities weren't known at the time of development.
Wow. That's a big deal. So imagine a scenario where you have this volunteer developer who contributes to a popular open source project in their spare time, and then suddenly they're facing legal action because of a security flaw that they had no idea even existed. I can see how that could discourage people from contributing to open source.
Exactly. And that's why there's been so much pushback from the community. There's this real concern that these well-intentioned regulations could unintentionally stifle innovation
Yeah.
and really hurt collaboration.
It's a classic example of unintended consequences. So what's the current status of the Cyber Resilience Act? Is it a done deal, or is there still room for discussion and maybe some adjustments?
Well, the good news is it's still being developed. It's not finalized. So that means there's still a chance for the open source community to engage with policymakers,
Yeah.
to try and advocate for changes that would protect open source development while still upholding those important goals of cybersecurity. It's about finding that balance.
And I think it's really important to remember that we need to find that sweet spot where we can promote cybersecurity without stifling the innovation that comes from open source software. So for our listener who might be passionate about open source, what can they do to stay informed about the Cyber Resilience Act and maybe even contribute to this really important discussion?
There are a number of organizations that are actively involved in advocating for the interests of open source, like the Open Source Initiative and the Free Software Foundation Europe.
Okay.
Those are great resources for staying up to date on the latest developments,
Right.
and also for finding ways to get involved.
Fantastic. So there are avenues for individuals to make their voices heard and potentially shape the direction of this legislation. It's crucial that we protect that vibrancy and collaborative spirit of open source, but we also need to find ways to make the internet a safer place.
Right.
And it's that balance that we have to get right.
Now, speaking of balancing open source ideals with the realities of business, I think it's really interesting that Daniel Thompson-Yvavat is actually writing a book about this very topic.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to read that.
It sounds like it's going to be a must-read for anyone who's involved in open source. What's the focus of the book? What kind of insights is he hoping to share?
It's called Manufacturing European Software.
Okay.
And it aims to demystify the complexities of building and distributing software, within that context of European regulations, including the Cyber Resilience Act.
Wow. A book dedicated to navigating those European software regulations. That's a must-read for anyone who's based in Europe or who wants to distribute their software there.
Absolutely. I'm really curious to see what he has to say. But, it's great to see these leaders in the open source community taking these proactive steps to educate and empower developers, especially when we're facing these potentially impactful regulations. It's a reminder that knowledge is power, and sharing that knowledge can really help the entire community navigate these complex challenges. But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something completely different, something that really highlights Daniel's, his sort of multifaceted personality. Have you heard about his involvement with 5-second films?
Oh, yeah. That's classic Daniel.
I love this. For those who haven't heard of them, what are 5-second films?
It's this group of comedians who create these super short films, and they're, well, you guessed it, they're only 5 seconds long.
5-second films, that's a unique concept.
Yeah.
What's the appeal? What's the draw for both the creators and the audience?
It's all about delivering that really quick burst of humor.
Right.
Or maybe just a thought-provoking moment, but in this super condensed format. It's just a fun and creative way to explore storytelling. Yeah. And engage with audiences.
Right.
Especially in this world where attention spans are getting shorter and shorter.
It's true. And I think sometimes in this world of endless scrolling and information overload, all you need is that little hit of entertainment or inspiration.
Yeah, it's like a mental palate cleanser.
Exactly. And Daniel is such a big fan of 5-second films.
He is.
Because he appreciates their ability to make you think and make you laugh, but in such a short amount of time.
And so quickly.
He actually sees a parallel between their creative approach and the challenges of software engineering.
Right.
Because often in software engineering, you need to find these elegant solutions within really tight constraints.
It's true, yeah.
I love that analogy. It really highlights that creative spark that's at the heart of both comedy and coding. And you know what? It's a good reminder that even in the midst of these complex technical discussions, it's important to make time for some creativity and, of course, for a good laugh. So if our listener is looking for a dose of laughter or a quick mental nudge, where can they find these 5-second films?
They have a website, a Patreon page.
Great.
Where you can find a treasure trove of, I would say, hilarious, thought-provoking creations. Definitely worth checking out.
Fantastic. I will be adding that to my list of things to explore. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about the technical intricacies of Tauri 2.0, the business of open source, the potential impact of these upcoming regulations, and even ventured into the world of 5-second films.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But before we wrap things up, I do want to touch on a theme that's been woven throughout our conversation. Security. You know, Tauri boasts all these impressive security features, leveraging Rust's inherent safety mechanisms and those regular security audits. But in the ever-evolving world of cybersecurity, what are some of the key things that developers need to keep in mind when they're building apps, regardless of what framework they choose?
I think it's really important to remember that security should always be top of mind,
Yeah.
no matter what tools you're using. While Tauri does provide a really solid foundation for building secure apps,
Yeah.
it's crucial to adopt that security-conscious mindset
Okay.
throughout the entire development process.
So it's not just about relying on the framework's features, it's about baking security into every step of the development process.
Absolutely. You have to think about potential vulnerabilities, your code, dependencies, those third-party libraries you might be using, regular code reviews, thorough security testing, and staying up to date on the latest best practices. These are all critical elements of building secure and robust applications.
It's a constant learning process, isn't it?
It is.
Especially because the cybersecurity landscape is always shifting.
Always evolving.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about another really important theme, which is community. We know that the Tauri community is incredibly vibrant and supportive, and it plays such a vital role in the project's success. What advice would you give to developers who are new to open source or maybe looking to join a thriving community like Tauri's? What would you tell them?
Well, I would say that open source can be a little bit daunting
Yeah.
at first, but it's such a rewarding experience. My advice would be start small. Find a project that really excites you, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
Most communities are very welcoming, and they really value those contributions, no matter how big or small.
That's good to hear. It's about finding your niche within this big open source world, not being intimidated by that initial learning curve.
Right.
There's a place for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are so many resources available online
Yeah.
for developers who are looking to get started with contributing to open source projects.
Right.
A lot of projects actually have contribution guidelines and documentation to help you kind of find your footing. And then, of course, online communities and forums are great places to connect with other developers
Right.
and learn from their experiences.
It's all about that collaboration and knowledge sharing, which is what makes open source so special. Now, let's talk about something that often gets neglected in the tech world: work-life balance. Daniel Thompson-Yvetot, one of the masterminds behind Tauri, he seems to have a knack for balancing his passion for open source with, a really fulfilling personal life. He's involved in these creative pursuits. He spends time with family. He's even writing a book. So what can developers who are, let's face it, often prone to long hours and those intense work schedules, what can they learn from Daniel's approach?
Daniel's a great example of how to find that balance.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the fast-paced tech world
Right.
and let work consume your life.
Yeah.
Daniel's a great reminder that we have to prioritize our well-being,
Yeah.
nurture those creative sides, and really make time for the things that matter most to us.
It's about recognizing that we're more than just the code we write,
Absolutely.
that we have lives and passions outside of the tech world.
Yeah. It's about investing in our relationships, taking care of ourselves, our physical, mental well-being, and finding that joy in the journey.
Great advice. It's a really good reminder that a fulfilling life is about so much more than just lines of code. Now, let's circle back to Tauri for a moment. Speaking of finding that balance and fostering a really welcoming environment, I think it's worth mentioning Daniel's efforts to promote diversity and inclusion within the Tauri community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Diversity and inclusion are essential for creating a community where everybody feels valued
Right.
and respected. It's about building a space where people from all backgrounds, all walks of life, can contribute their unique perspectives and talents.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that a diverse community is a stronger community.
Absolutely.
Different perspectives and experiences lead to richer discussions and ultimately better outcomes.
I love that. Diversity isn't just a buzzword, it's actually a catalyst for progress. So what specific things is Daniel doing to promote diversity and inclusion within the Tauri community?
Well, he's really active in encouraging participation from underrepresented groups, promoting a code of conduct
Okay.
that really emphasizes respect and inclusivity. And he just works really hard to create a supportive environment
Yeah.
for all contributors.
That's fantastic to hear. It sets such a positive example for other open source projects to follow. Now, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture, the future of web development. With the rapid pace of innovation, new frameworks popping up all the time, AI becoming more influential, what are some key trends that developers should be paying attention to, and how might they impact projects like Tauri?
It's a really dynamic time to be a web developer. The landscape is constantly changing, so there are some seriously exciting trends on the horizon.
Okay, give us the inside scoop. What trends have caught your eye?
Well, one of the biggest is the rise of serverless computing.
Okay.
This lets developers build and deploy apps without having to manage servers, which is a huge game changer.
Yeah.
And for projects like Tauri, it really simplifies deployment and allows developers to really focus more on the code and less on that infrastructure.
It's all about streamlining the development process,
Right.
making it easier for developers to bring their ideas to life.
Exactly. Another trend that's really gaining momentum is the increasing adoption of WebAssembly, or WASM for short.
Okay, I've heard of that.
This is basically a binary instruction format that lets code that's written in languages other than JavaScript
Okay.
actually
Right.
run in web browsers. This opens up all sorts of possibilities for projects like Tauri, which could leverage WASM to boost performance and even extend functionality.
Wow, I can see how WebAssembly could really shake things up in the web development world. Are there any other notable trends that developers should keep an eye on?
Absolutely. AI is having a massive impact on how we build and interact with web applications.
Yeah.
AI-powered tools can now assist with code generation, testing, even user interface design, which really frees up developers
Yeah.
to focus on those more creative, complex tasks.
It's like having an AI assistant to guide you along the way. As AI continues to advance, I can only imagine what innovative applications we'll see.
Absolutely. It's going to be an exciting ride.
Speaking of exciting rides, let's steer back to Tauri. With all these advancements, all these new trends, how is Tauri adapting to ensure its relevance in this ever-changing landscape of web development?
The team is constantly exploring ways to improve performance, enhance security,
Yeah.
and expand the framework's capabilities. They're very involved in the WebAssembly community, looking at ways to integrate WASM into Tauri.
So they're not just watching the world change, they're actually shaping the future of the framework.
Exactly. They're also experimenting with serverless architectures to simplify deployment for Tauri apps and really closely monitoring advancements in AI, too.
Okay.
Looking for ways to integrate those AI-powered tools into the ecosystem.
So they're really committed to making sure that Tauri remains a cutting-edge platform for building these modern web applications. It's a reminder that in the ever-changing world of technology, standing still just isn't an option, you know?
Right.
Innovation is absolutely key to survival. Now let's talk about another really crucial aspect of Tauri's success, which is its funding model. We know Tauri is an open source project, which means it relies heavily on community support and contributions. But to ensure its long-term sustainability, it needs a solid funding model. So how does Tauri manage to keep the lights on and actually support those development efforts?
It's a multifaceted approach.
Yep.
First of all, they receive donations from individuals and organizations who really believe in the project's mission.
Yeah.
They also offer paid support services
Okay.
for companies who need a little bit extra help with their Tauri apps.
It's a really good combination of community-driven support and then those commercially viable services. It's a smart way to create a sustainable ecosystem.
Exactly. And then to really solidify their financial stability, they've partnered with Crab Nebula,
Right.
which, as we mentioned, provides a range of services that actually generate revenue,
Yeah.
which helps to support the project as a whole.
It sounds like a really well-thought-out approach to funding open source development by diversifying their revenue streams
Yeah.
and partnering with that commercially focused entity like Crab Nebula. Tauri can ensure its long-term viability
Right.
and continue to innovate and grow. Now, I want to step back and consider the kind of philosophical underpinnings of the open source movement. It's something that's very central to projects like Tauri.
Yep.
You know, open source is more than just a way to build software. It's this whole philosophy that embraces collaboration, transparency, this free flow of information. It's a way of thinking, a way of approaching problem solving that goes beyond just writing code. Would you agree?
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the head. That open source philosophy,
Yeah.
it champions the idea that knowledge should be freely shared. And that collaboration ultimately leads to better outcomes. It's about
Yeah.
breaking down those silos, working together
Yeah.
to create something much greater than any individual could do alone.
I love that. But, in a world that's so driven by commercial interests and proprietary software, how does that open source philosophy continue to thrive and remain relevant?
It's a valid question. I mean, the movement definitely faces its share of challenges,
Yeah.
but those core values continue to resonate with developers and organizations worldwide.
What are some of those factors that really contribute to that enduring appeal of open source?
Well, one factor is the quality of the software itself.
Okay.
Because open source projects are developed collaboratively and scrutinized by this large community, they often exhibit exceptional quality and reliability.
It's like having this massive quality assurance team.
Exactly. Another factor is the flexibility and customization.
Yeah.
Because the source code is readily available, developers can actually modify and adapt it to suit their specific needs. And that's something that's really appealing. You're not limited
Right.
by the constraints of a proprietary solution.
You have that freedom to tinker and make it your own.
Exactly. And finally, that open source philosophy aligns really well with the values of transparency and community, which are becoming increasingly important in today's world. It's about building trust, fostering collaboration, working together to create a more open and connected world.
Those are powerful ideas, and it's inspiring to see how this philosophy continues to not only survive, but thrive and evolve in the face of these new challenges. Now, circling back to Tauri, I think it's worth highlighting the driving force behind this project. Daniel Thompson-Ivata, his personal journey, his values, they've really shaped his approach to open source development. So, can you tell us a little bit more about Daniel's background and how it's influenced his work on Tauri?
Daniel's been part of the open source community for many years.
Yeah.
He's contributed to numerous projects, championing those values of collaboration and transparency. His experiences have really instilled in him this deep appreciation for the power of community and the importance of building software that empowers developers.
It's about more than just the code. It's about making a positive impact and contributing to a community that aligns with your values.
Exactly. And you can see that passion in his work on Tauri.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons the project's been so successful.
It really is inspiring to see how those personal values and experiences can really shape the development of innovative software that makes a difference. Now, let's broaden our perspective a little bit more and talk about the future of app development as a whole. With all the rapid technological advancements, the emergence of new platforms, and the growing influence of AI, what are some of the key trends that are shaping the future of app development? And how might those impact frameworks like Tauri?
It's an incredibly exciting time to be an app developer. The landscape is constantly changing, and there are a number of really interesting trends.
Okay, give us a glimpse into the crystal ball. What trends have caught your eye?
One of the most significant trends is the growing importance of cross-platform development.
Right.
As users increasingly access applications across a variety of devices, from their smartphones and tablets to their desktops, even their wearables, it's more important than ever for developers to build apps that work seamlessly across all platforms.
It's about meeting users where they are.
Right.
Providing them with a consistent and enjoyable experience on all their devices.
Precisely. And frameworks like Tauri, which really simplify cross-platform development using web technologies, are really well positioned to capitalize on this trend.
Okay, yeah, I see how that makes sense.
Yep.
What other trends should developers be paying attention to?
Another trend that's gaining serious traction is the increasing adoption of cloud-native architectures.
Cloud-native architectures, okay. So what does that actually mean for app development?
This involves building apps that are specifically designed to run in the cloud, really taking advantage of cloud services for storage, computing power, and all sorts of functionalities.
So it's about leveraging the scalability, that flexibility, and cost-effectiveness that the cloud offers.
Exactly. Cloud-native architectures are especially well-suited for apps that need to handle massive amounts of data or require high availability, those kinds of things. And again, frameworks like Tauri, with their ability to seamlessly interface with cloud services, are really well equipped to support this trend.
Yeah, it makes sense. As more and more apps rely on that real-time data and connectivity, those cloud-native architectures are becoming more and more essential.
Absolutely.
What else is on the horizon?
The rise of AI.
AI. It's everywhere.
It really is. And it's transforming the way we build and interact with apps.
Okay.
AI-powered features like chatbots, personalized recommendations, and predictive analytics.
Yeah.
These are becoming increasingly common. And again, frameworks like Tauri, which are designed to be very flexible and extensible,
Right.
they can easily integrate these AI-powered features.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to create these really intelligent and engaging experiences for the users.
It's like AI is weaving intelligence into the very fabric of our apps.
Exactly. It's a very exciting time to be an app developer, to say the least.
The possibilities are truly endless. But let's bring it back to our listener for a moment. If someone is listening to this, they're intrigued by Tauri, and they want to explore it further, what are some practical steps they can take?
Well, the Tauri website is always a great place to start.
Okay.
They have really comprehensive documentation,
Yeah.
tutorials,
Right.
and lots of examples to guide you through building that first Tauri app.
So it's kind of a one-stop shop for all things Tauri?
Exactly. And if you're looking for something more hands-on,
Yeah.
there are a number of online courses and workshops
Oh, nice.
dedicated specifically to Tauri development.
And I'm sure the Tauri community is a great resource as well
Oh, absolutely.
for getting help and connecting with other developers who are working with the framework.
Yeah, they're very active and supportive.
It's another reminder that in the open source world, community is really everything. Now let's talk about another important aspect of app development, which is design.
Okay.
Tauri provides the framework, the foundation, but what design principles should developers keep in mind to ensure that their apps are user-friendly, that they look good, that they're not just functional, but they're actually visually appealing as well?
You've hit upon a crucial point. Great app design is just as important as that solid technical implementation.
It's about finding that sweet spot between beauty and brains,
Right.
building apps that are both visually appealing and functionally sound.
Precisely. And one key principle is simplicity.
Okay.
Apps should be intuitive, easy to use, even for those first-time users.
Yeah.
So that means clear navigation, uncluttered interfaces, consistent design elements,
Right.
all contribute to a really positive user experience.
It's about making the app a joy to use, rather than a source of frustration. No one wants to have to battle with a confusing interface.
Exactly. Another important principle is accessibility. Apps should be designed for everybody, regardless of their abilities or disabilities.
Right.
And that means considering visual impairments, hearing impairments, motor impairments.
It's about making sure everyone feels welcome and included in the digital world.
Precisely. And finally, performance. Apps need to be fast, responsive, and efficient.
Right.
Slow loading times, laggy animations, excessive battery drain. Those are all things that can turn users away.
It's about respecting users' time and making sure that the app doesn't become a burden. So does Tauri actually offer anything to help developers with this? Are there any tools or resources that can help them build apps that are both functional and beautiful?
Absolutely. Tauri actually has a number of features
Okay.
and integrations that make it easy to incorporate those modern design principles that we've been talking about. For example, Tauri has built-in support for CSS frameworks,
Okay.
which provide all these pre-designed components and styles that can really help accelerate the design process.
So it's kind of like giving developers a head start, making it easier to create those visually appealing apps without needing to be a design expert.
Exactly. And Tauri also integrates seamlessly with those JavaScript UI libraries,
Okay.
which offer this huge range of pre-built components and interactive elements
Right.
that can really enhance the user experience.
So there's a lot baked in to help with design.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
And for those developers who prefer a more visual approach to design, there are also some Tauri-specific design tools and plugins available
Okay.
that can streamline the process.
So whether you're a design whiz or you're just getting started, Tauri's got you covered. Now, let's talk about testing.
Okay.
How does Tauri support the testing process, and what are some of the best practices for ensuring that Tauri apps are thoroughly tested and, of course, as bug-free as possible?
Testing is such a crucial part of the software development lifecycle.
Yeah.
And Tauri actually provides really robust support for all those different types of testing.
Give us a rundown. What kind of testing are we talking about here?
Well, first of all, you have unit testing,
Okay.
which is testing those individual components or functions in isolation,
Okay.
which is testing those individual components
Got it.
or functions in isolation to make sure they're working correctly.
Right.
You also have integration testing,
Okay.
which focuses on how all those different components actually work together as a whole.
Yeah.
And then for testing those user interactions and the overall flow of the app,
Right.
Tauri supports end-to-end testing.
Yeah.
So it's simulating those real user scenarios.
So it's like a comprehensive approach, covering everything from those tiny little units of code to that complete user experience.
Exactly. And to make things even easier, Tauri integrates with all those popular testing frameworks and tools so developers can really use whatever testing methodologies they prefer.
That's good. And I'm guessing the Tauri community also plays a big part in all of this testing and reporting bugs.
Oh, absolutely. They're super active in reporting bugs and providing feedback on new features, which is really important.
Right, because you have all those different people actually using the framework in different ways, so you're more likely to catch those edge cases and those little bugs that you might not have found otherwise.
Exactly. It's just another testament to the power of open source collaboration.
It is. Speaking of community and collaboration, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, which is accessibility in app development. How does Tauri approach this, and what can developers do to make sure that their apps are inclusive and usable by everyone, regardless of their abilities?
Accessibility is absolutely crucial, and Tauri actually provides a number of features and integrations that make it easier to build apps that are accessible. It really leverages those accessibility features that are already built into web technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
So it's about taking those strengths from the web and extending them to desktop apps.
Exactly. And Tauri also integrates with accessibility testing tools, which allow developers to identify those potential issues early on.
Right, catch them before they become a problem.
Yeah, early in the development process.
So it's about equipping developers with the right resources to make sure that they're building apps that meet those standards and that everybody can participate in this digital world. Now let's shift gears again and talk about the future of work. You know, it's a topic that's constantly evolving. We've got remote work becoming more popular, flexible schedules, this changing role of technology. How might frameworks like Tauri actually contribute to the evolution of the workplace? What are some potential use cases here?
It really is an interesting time to be thinking about the future of work.
It is.
As technology continues to evolve, it's reshaping how we work, where we work, even what work itself looks like.
Okay, paint us a picture. How might Tauri fit into this evolving landscape?
Well, frameworks like Tauri, with their ability to build those cross-platform apps using web technologies, they're a perfect fit for creating collaborative workspaces, communication tools, productivity apps that are really tailored to the needs of those remote teams.
It's about building the tools that will actually enable this new way of working.
Absolutely. So you can imagine using Tauri to build a project management app. That allows these remote teams to collaborate on tasks really seamlessly. Share files, track progress. Or a company could use Tauri to build their own custom communication platform that integrates video conferencing, instant messaging, file sharing, all those things into a single convenient app.
It's about creating that sense of a digital workspace that fosters that feeling of connection even if people aren't physically together in the same office.
And that focus on performance, security, and user experience is really, really important for work apps.
Yeah, no one wants to be wrestling with a slow or clunky app when they're trying to get things done. So for our listener who's thinking, okay, this is cool, but I'd love to see some real-world examples of how Tauri could actually be used in this new world of work, what would you suggest? How can they kind of explore those ideas further?
I'd say head over to the Tauri website. They have those great docs, tutorials, and the community forums are really fantastic for connecting with other developers and hearing about what they're doing.
So it's really just a matter of jumping in and seeing what's possible. Now let's talk about something that's really shaking up the world of app development. Low-code and no-code platforms.
Yeah, those are interesting.
They're becoming really popular.
They are.
They're allowing people who aren't programmers to build their own apps. So how might frameworks like Tauri actually adapt to this changing landscape? What role might they play in this kind of evolving world of app development?
It's a really interesting question.
It is a lot.
Because low-code and no-code platforms are definitely changing things up. They're making app development much more accessible to a wider range of people, businesses.
Okay, for those who might not be familiar with this trend, give us a little low-code, no-code 101. What are these platforms all about, and how are they changing the game for app development?
They basically offer these visual interfaces and pre-built components that allow you to build apps without actually writing traditional code.
So they kind of abstract away that complexity of coding.
Exactly.
So anyone with an idea can become an app creator, even if they don't have a technical background.
It's very appealing for small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Startups,
Right.
individuals who don't have the resources to hire a whole team of developers.
Right. It's lowering those barriers to entry. But with the rise of these platforms, will frameworks like Tauri become obsolete?
It's a great question. I think those platforms are great for quickly building really simple applications, but they do often lack the flexibility and the power that a framework like Tauri can provide.
So it's a matter of choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly.
You might use those low-code, no-code platforms for those quick and easy apps.
Right.
But for those more complex, customized applications, frameworks like Tauri are still essential.
Absolutely. I mean, if you need fine-grained control over your app, if you need to integrate with specific APIs or libraries,
Right.
or if you're really pushing the boundaries of performance,
Yeah.
those are cases where Tauri shines.
So there's room for both of these approaches to thrive.
Yeah.
They each cater to different needs, different levels of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious, are there ways that Tauri could actually adapt to this new landscape? Could it integrate with these low-code and no-code platforms in some way?
Oh, definitely. There are possibilities. One idea is for Tauri to develop plugins or extensions that allow developers to connect those Tauri apps with these platforms
Right.
that are really popular.
So it's about building bridges between these two worlds.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Another possibility is for Tauri itself to adopt some of those principles from low-code and no-code
Okay.
by providing more visual tools and pre-built components.
Right. So make it more approachable
Yeah.
without sacrificing that power and that flexibility.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about something else that's really making waves. The metaverse.
Ah, yes, the metaverse.
It's all about blurring those lines between the physical and the digital, creating these immersive experiences. How might frameworks like Tauri actually contribute to the development of metaverse experiences?
Well, the metaverse is still in its early stages, of course,
Yeah,
but it has this tremendous potential
it does.
to create really immersive and interactive digital experiences.
Okay, for our listener who's new to the metaverse, paint a picture of what this digital world might look like and where Tauri might fit in.
The metaverse is kind of envisioned as this persistent, shared digital world
Okay.
where users can interact with each other, participate in all sorts of experiences, even create digital assets and trade them. Think virtual events, shared workspaces.
Wow, a digital economy within a digital world.
Exactly.
It's like creating a digital twin of the real world and then expanding on it.
It really is.
So where does Tauri fit into all of this?
Frameworks like Tauri, with their ability to build those cross-platform apps, are really well suited
Okay.
for creating metaverse experiences that lots of people can access.
Right.
Imagine using Tauri to build a VR or an AR app
Okay, I see, yeah.
that lets you actually interact with this virtual world.
So Tauri is used to build the tools, the platforms that power those immersive experiences.
That's exactly it. And Tauri's focus on performance,
Yeah,
efficiency,
right.
that's super important for those smooth and responsive experiences, especially on devices that maybe don't have a ton of processing power.
Because no one wants a laggy or glitchy experience when they're trying to explore the metaverse.
No, not at all.
Okay, so for our listener who's inspired by all of this and wants to actually contribute to the Tauri project, what are some ways they can get involved?
The Tauri community is super welcoming,
Yeah.
and they really encourage contributions from all different levels of developers.
So whether you're a seasoned coder or just starting out, there's a place for you.
Absolutely. You can report bugs. You can suggest new features.
Okay.
You can contribute to the documentation.
Right.
Even translate it into different languages.
That's a good one.
You can even share your knowledge by writing tutorials,
Yeah.
blog posts. And for those who are more code inclined, you can contribute to the Tauri codebase itself
Yeah.
by fixing those bugs, adding new features, or improving existing ones.
It sounds like there are so many ways to get involved.
There are.
No matter your skill level, no matter what you're interested in.
Exactly.
It's about finding that contribution that really speaks to your passions, speaks to your interests.
Exactly.
Now, for those who want to learn more about Tauri and actually connect with the community, I've heard that the Tauri team hosts these live coding streams.
They do, and I highly recommend them.
Tell me more about those.
Right.
What happens in these streams and what makes them so beneficial for learning?
Basically, members of the Tauri team
Oh,
or sometimes guest developers from the community.
right.
They work on real Tauri projects live.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so they're showcasing their coding techniques,
Yeah.
problem-solving strategies,
Right.
all their insights into the framework.
So it's like you have a front row seat
Yeah,
to see how they actually work, how they approach these challenges.
exactly. And what makes it even better is that it's interactive, so the viewers can ask questions, they can offer suggestions,
Oh, wow.
they can even contribute
That's
to
amazing.
the code that's being developed.
So it's a really engaging way to learn
Yes.
and to actually connect with that community. I'm definitely adding that to my list. Well, this has been a truly incredible deep dive into the world of Tauri.
It has been.
It's so inspiring to see how this open source project is really pushing the boundaries of app development, making it easier for developers to build these incredible things. Expert speaker, any parting thoughts for our listener who's maybe thinking about taking the plunge and exploring Tauri themselves?
I think it's just amazing to see how Tauri is challenging those conventions in the app development world.
Yeah,
That commitment to performance, security, and to that amazing community.
absolutely.
I think the future is incredibly bright for this project. So if you're looking for a modern, efficient way to build those cross-platform apps, I'd definitely say give Tauri a try.
I couldn't agree more. And that's what makes these deep dives so worthwhile. Now, I'm curious, what stands out to you most about Tauri? Is it the super lean size, the potential of Verso, that amazing community spirit? There's so much to explore. If you're ready to get your hands dirty and actually start building, head over to tauri.app and be sure to share your creations with the community. You might even see your project on that legendary Awesome Tauri list. Until next time, keep on diving.